Hello and welcome to today's painting demonstration. My name is Leah and I teach acrylic painting on this YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing a Pacific Coast sunset scene with some beautiful cypress trees, which are some of my personal favorite trees. And we're going to do a warm color palette. So you have the reference on screen, and this is the compositional work that I've done to rearrange things to a more pleasing manner. Usually I clear out some space, simplify an image, and then make sure that things are rearranged to the thirds and that there's some pleasant lead lines going towards our focal point. A lot of the paintings that I do here on stream are very primary focal point driven, which means your eye is definitely going to one spot on the painting. But what that does is it simplifies the rest of the process. So when you know when something is important, then you can add more detail to that space, more contrast to the space, and then kind of let yourself get looser as you move away from that. And then anything, if it's not part of the journey to the focal point, not a lead line, then you can kind of simplify that out. So it gives you a directive to move in. I feel like this really helps landscape images. So anyway, here we go. The journey your eye is going to take is going to be up this light that's shining on the water, and then this high contrast point, that's going to be the sun blaring through these cypress trees. So I restructured the cypress trees to have a little bit more body and presence to them as well. I'm also going to be changing the clouds. So I have my pencil illustration here pretty well defined, but you know, less and less I am putting any lines in the sky. I'm usually using some pretty light colors up there, and when I put a line down, like this line here, for a cloud, if I don't use it or if I want to change it a little bit, I'm usually battling to cover up that pencil line, so I don't like to have to do that. So I have my big filbert brush with a good amount of water in there, and I'm going to grab some burnt sienna for our underpainting, starting with what will be the darkest value first. So the cliffs, the trees, and then the subtle vignetting. Don't be freaked out if you are not following the lines. Just kind of be loose. Okay, now I'm just going to add a little bit of water to my brush, but no additional paint, and that's just going to lighten up the value of what's there. I changed the position of the sun from the reference, so whenever you do that, you gotta make sure that the shadows are in the right spot for that light source change. I'm just going to leave that sunspot area white. I'm going to rinse off my brush pretty much completely. Get that nice and clean, and then I'm just going to touch that sun area with a bit of cadmium yellow light. Wiping that off and then blending that out. Okay, that's it for the underpainting. I'm going to put that filbert brush aside. That's the only part of the process it gets to participate in. Now we're going to do the sky, a small filbert. Let's see, what do we need to mix here? Got a lot of blue-gray, which I like, but I'm going to warm it up a little bit. The gray is going to go more towards purple, and then the yellow is going to go a little bit more towards peach. I think that would be pretty nice. So actually I'm going to put this down because I don't want to mix with my brush. Got some cerulean blue and white. This is a very common mix. I use this a lot. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and mix the darkest value, which is our ultramarine and burnt sienna. We're going to use that for the silhouette. And the rocks, the dark side of the rocks. Okay, now I'm going to take a bit of that, add some quinacridone magenta, I'm going to add some titanium white to half of that mixture. Surprisingly, it needs more magenta. And that's not very purpley at all. That's actually a really nice, cool gray. Okay, now this purple here is a little too warm, too much plum. I'm going to cool that down with some cerulean blue. There we go. I want it to be more on the blue side. I'm going to be using it in the ocean as well as the clouds. So I'm going to pile that up and then wipe off the palette knife there. I know a lot of the times I'll just drag some color over, but not this time. So cerulean blue, And a little bit of white I'm going to mix on the corner of that darker purple. And this will also be used in the ocean. The only thing we have left to add is just a little bit of peach color. Wiping off that palette knife again, and then, so cadmium yellow light, cadmium red medium. I feel like that was too much red. That was probably too much red. It's a very powerful red, which is why you don't see that palette go down very far. Okay, so mix until you have this light orange and then add titanium white. I do like this color, but I'm wondering if it should be a little bit more pink. Maybe just a little bit more intense. I'll just add a little bit more red to the corner. And then if I feel it in the moment, I can use it. Or just kind of go between the two. The light peach and then a little bit more pink. Okay, that does it. That's everything. Everything we need. We're going to start in the sky. All right, now I'm picking up the small filbert. Okay, I'm going to start with my warms. So we've got our sun blasting from this area right here. I'm going to add some peach coming away. And right on the horizon. And then up towards where there's going to be some billowy clouds. Adding just some straight titanium white in the very middle of where the sunspot is. And then I'm going to blend out from that area with just some circular pouncing brush strokes. And I'm just making some interesting gradients. Adding a little bit more yellow between that peach and that white. A little bit more yellow behind the tree. Brighten that up. There we go. More yellow, more peach back there. It's really not a lot of sky behind the trees, but that's okay. That tree going up like that is going to help keep our eye in the middle of the scene. A little bit, now I'm just adjusting some of these gradients, a little bit more white and yellow coming away. From the sun. Seems like in the reference photo, because I'm looking at the reference photo right now, I'm noticing that the color does shift to blue in the sky between the clouds at right about where I'm blending. So even though it's not going to happen a lot because there's not that much space, that would be a nice touch. Okay, I'm fairly happy with that light. Now we're gonna go to clouds. So you can get an idea of where your clouds are gonna go with that peach color. And the billowy parts, the billowy bits of the clouds that are facing the sun, you can go ahead and brush them in with the peach. You can kind of experiment with some shapes like that as well. Thank you, Jackie. And then after you get a pretty firm sense of where your clouds are going to go, you can start adding some purples. But don't go too crazy though. Start with light purple, and I'll show you that in a second. So without even rinsing out my brush or anything, I'm going to go to the lightest purple color. It's looking real dark actually now that I'm up against it with that peach, but where we mixed the cerulean blue and the white, and where that and the purple are next to each other, go ahead and just get a 50-50 mix. Start with that, and then we're going to build up darker. So using that same brush stroke, the kind of wax on, wax off, you can butt up to the peach. It should still be a little bit wet. I like to make sure that my corners are dark. Okay, now a little bit heavier on the purple. Going further away from the sunspot again on those clouds. Rotational scrubby strokes. I don't like that shape. Don't like the shape coming straight down. Okay, there we go. We are going to paint some negative shapes in the cloud, So if you feel like your clouds got too big and too puffy, or maybe they're crowding everything, it's okay. We're going to add some negative space in. There is the darker purple on the very farthest edge, the periphery, back behind the cypress tree, a little bit of purple coming in. Okay, great. So now we're done with the little filbert. Go ahead and give him a rinse and put that one aside. You want to pick up a small flat. I have a 1/4 inch rigger here that I have been using and enjoying. So that light blue, cerulean blue titanium mix that we made earlier, go ahead and put a little bit more white. I mean, just the lightest blue, and we're going to cut some spots in the clouds. And just kind of keep in mind the flow that you have going on in your composition. Try not to have too much paint in your brush, because that's going to be harder to blend. You could always, some people blend with a second brush. They'll apply with one brush and then they'll blend with another one that they have in their hand, but that's a lot. It's a lot to be happening. I'm just going really, really light with the application. And if you feel like your paintbrush is picking up paint rather than putting it down, then just move to a different area and come back when that's dry. This happens to me almost once a painting, and then I remind myself as I remind everyone. I'm just lightly brushing that light blue over the edge of the, this would not be a cloud area, that would be a sky area, but it's just warmed by the sun, especially along the horizon line. There we go. And then of course the blue gets a little bit darker as you move away from that sunspot. I just picked up some water and cleaned out my brush really quick, and now I'm blending some of those spots because I don't want big, thick, hard lines to lead your eye away. Definitely not off of the scene. Okay, now I think that pink apricot that was made earlier, I'm just gonna brush some of it right here on this transition, like where it goes from apricot to purple. I'm just not digging that color so much, so I'm just gonna highlight it with that orange. It's gonna give it some more variation, a little bit more style. And this one, she should be real bright and warm facing the sun like that. So I'm just gonna wisp off some brush strokes. Over the yellow. I'm not gonna cover everything. I don't have that much paint on the brush right now. Just dancing it around that area. And I'm gonna hint at a little bit more of that color on some of these clouds here. Just kind of scrubbing it on. Not heavy paint, this is just loose and transparent. Feel like just a couple more little wisps and then we can go to the sea. Good. So we're gonna paint in the ocean before we do this landmass because there's parts that'll just be easier if we get out of the way if we do that first. It's a lot of long brush strokes, so I'm gonna use my flat. This one is a 3/8. You could use a 1/4 inch. I like using flats instead of brights because the bristles are longer and they have a little bit more bounce to them. They also hold more paint if you needed that in a bigger painting, but I try brights here and there. I use them maybe more for oil painting when I need the bristles to be super rigid, but I'd rather have a bounce to it. Holds more water as well, if that's the thing you need. So I am going to put that in the water and then wipe it off on my paper towel. And we're looking at some light purple way back there. And it's not very big, that area. And it is just a lot easier if you just get that out of the way first. I put a little bit more water in my mixture because I would rather the watercolors be a little bit on the transparent side. And I want to leave some yellow space where the sun is coming down to the foreground. Okay, now that I've got my top line on there, I'm going to switch to the small end of my brush, the small edge, not the thick edge. And with a little bit more water in the brush, I am just going to do some thin brush strokes here. Just layering. It's a good amount of transparency here. And in a couple places, I am going to go all the way across that sunny area that we left for the reflection. Picking up that blushy peach, and I'm going to go across that